to have a quick recap of what we have covered in the last sessions. In the last sessions, I have discussed what is research. Okay, so I have also highlighted the difference between research method and research methodology. So research method basically refer to the instruments that we use in order to collect data, whereas research methodology here, whereas research methodology refer to the entire process and the procedure where the researcher undertake to respond to the research question. Okay, so therefore, being the researcher, so we should not mix up these two terms. Research method and research methodology are not the same. Okay, well, on your right-hand side, as what you can see here, so this is a typical research process that every researcher go through. At the end, we would like to publish our research so that the finding that we gain from the research can help the society or perhaps to develop policy and so on. So for today's purposes, on the guideline of using Smart PLS, it will be more of data analysis and interpretation. Sorry, I saw a hand is raised. Dr. Farid, is there anything that I can do for you? Am I audible? Yes.
Yeah, sure. We can hear you. Sure.
Okay, right. May I continue?
Yeah, sure. You may continue.
Okay, right. So thanks. Okay, there was some slight interruptions here. Yeah, so on your right-hand side here, so this is a typical research process that all the researchers undergo when they are trying to conduct their research. So for today's sessions here, it'll be more about data analysis and interpretation. And in the last sessions, I have also highlighted that research is a dynamic field. So research is keep evolving. So despite that the theoretical aspect have not progressed far or it has not much changes, but the software that available on our desktop has progressed tremendously. So that's why it is more demanding for us as a researcher to come up with rigor and also credible study. So that's why there are a lot of tools that we can help us in order to produce credible research. And because of that, if you would like to submit to journals article, so back then what has been accepted and now at this decade, it might not be acceptable anymore. Like for instance, the past that I have shared with you, if you would like to talk about the mediations effect, Barron and Kenny will be something that in the past. So currently we move towards another aspect of examining mediations effect. And last sessions, I have also highlight to you about the history of statistical analysis together with structural equations modeling. So where statistical analysis had gone through 3 stages of development. So the first stages is relates to regressions and correlation. So this was by Carl Pearson. The second stage talk about the factor analysis and also path modeling. So that was by Charles Spearman. And then we go to the second generations of analysis, which is structural equations modeling. Right. So if we look at the history of the statistical analysis, right? So we begin with regressions and correlation. So that's why last sessions, I have also explained that structural equations modeling is one part of the multivariate analysis that the researcher use. And then another popular approach that the researcher often uses is multiple regressions analysis. So are they two the same or are they two the different? So I would say that there are somehow some overlapping in between, because if you look at the history of statistical analysis, how we begin here is we start with correlation, we start with regression. So when we go to the higher level or we go to the second generations here, we have structural equations modeling. Okay, so for structural equations modeling, basically got 2 big categories. One is covariance-based structural equations modeling. The other one is variance-based structural equations modeling. So variance-based structural equations modeling is the part that where partial least square structural equations modeling is about. Okay, so before we proceed with any data analysis, I have also alert that there are few considerations we as researcher need to take note. So the first one here is the sampling technique. So are you using probability sampling or non-probability sampling technique? Then the next thing here will be the sample size. So sample size will actually affect our result. So then the third point here is that have you done any pre-testing? Have you done any pilot tests to ensure the content validity? Yeah, so then that is the third considerations. And then the fourth one here, particularly if we are using questions nest survey, single source, then we will prone to have the common method bias. So how have we mitigate the issue of common method bias? So if we have not take care about this common method bias here, it will again later affect our result. It will inflate our result. Okay, so and another considerations we need to look into is the reverse coding. So assuming that in your questions there, you have reverse coding. So you need to handle all this before you proceed with the data analysis. And the last one here that we need to consider before data analysis here, that will be the missing value. So assuming that you have missing value in your data, so you need to handle that, rather what we call data cleaning before you proceed with the data analysis. Yeah, so then this basically was what I have shared in the last sessions about the first part, where I discussed about partial least square structural equations modeling in the theoretical aspect. So this is the agenda that I have prepared for today. So I will have a quick walkthrough about the evolutions of Smart PLS software. Okay, then I will still continue with some explanations on structural equations modeling, particularly variance-based SEM, or what we are going to focus in, partial least square structural equations modeling. I will provide you some practical guideline and threshold that is actually sufficient for you to do the reporting. Okay, so I will thereon demonstrate how to use the Smart PLS software, which is the latest version. So if you recall, we just have our first sessions early of July, right? So after our sessions, then the software actually come up with another version, which is just updated, I think, a few days after our first session. So currently the version now is 4.1.0.6. So for the demonstrations purpose, I will demonstrate using the reflective measurement model. Then I zoom into the structural model. So if time permits, I would also like to share with you another very useful analysis that is necessary conditions analysis. So then I will end the sessions with questions and answer. But I have to apologize, assuming that I'm not able to handle all the questions during this webinar here. I will leave you with my email address, so you can drop an email to me. Okay, so let's just begin now. Okay, now, so another, yes? Yes? Okay, well, so now we're going to start our today's sessions, where I mentioned that today I will try to look into the demonstrations. Sorry, I beg your pardon. Is someone that's speaking? Is that a message for me?
No, madam, you should continue.
All right, thank you. Thank you. Okay. All right, so let me continue. Okay, again, some disruption. Okay, so before I start for today's sessions, because today I would like to show you how to use the Smart PLS software to run the PLS SEM. Yeah, thank you. So today I would like to share with you how to use the Smart PLS software to run the PLS SEM analysis. Now, so, and then another concept that I would like to take this opportunity to share with all the researcher and scholar here, which is the difference between software and also statistical analysis. Why I take this opportunity here is that I often hear PhD students or PhD candidates during their discussions, when they were asked, what is the statistical approach that you use? Then the students or the PhD candidate say that they are using Smart PLS. So to me, it was actually a surprise, because that student have not answered the questions appropriately. Okay, so that's why I would like to take this opportunity to explain that software and statistical approach are not the same. I believe every one of you here understand what is software, right? So software basically is the computer programs that help us to execute some tasks based on certain instruction. Whereas statistical software, whereas statistical approach here refer to the statistical technique, the statistical method, and the statistical analysis that we use. So therefore, assuming that someone is asking you, what is your statistical approach? Then you should explain that, assuming you are using structural equations modeling, then you should say structural equations modeling. Or if you're using multiple regression analysis, when you ask what is your statistical technique, what is your statistical analysis too? So then you should say you are using multiple regressions analysis instead of telling the software. Okay, so this is what I would like to highlight because I always correct the students, software and statistical approach is not the same. Okay, so now for today's purpose, Smart PLS is a statistical software. So in the past, Smart PLS focused on analyzing PLS SEM. Okay, so partial least square structural equation modeling is a statistical approach. So just now I mentioned that software is computers program, right? So for partial least square structural equations modeling, PLS SEM here, this is a statistical approach. So this falls under the umbrella of SEM. Okay, so to put things in perspective, so PLS SEM is also a multivariate data analysis method. So therefore, statistical approach or statistical method is not the same as statistical software, right? Okay, so SEM or structural equations modeling here is actually a statistical technique. So therefore, when people ask you, what is a statistical technique? You should answer SEM or multiple regressions analysis. And you shouldn't say data, SPSS or Smart PLS. All right, so then that is the difference. So for SEM here, it is very useful. The reason here is because it's able to analyze the interrelationship among all the multiple variables simultaneously. So in this case, particularly, we are in social sciences. So sometimes when we try to collect the information or the responses using psychometric approach, for instance, I would like to ask you, how satisfied are you with this web banner? So this is something like psychometric measure. So we cannot observe that with our naked eye. Unlike things like I asked you, what is your weight? Okay, I can tell you, okay, my weight is 50 kilo. So these are observed variable. So for unobserved variable, we need to have proxy, we need to have lantern construct. So that's why structural equations modeling is very popular. And structural equation modeling here is widely used in various fields. As I mentioned just now, psychology, sociology, economics is also using this, and engineering is also using this to test and refine the theoretical model. So because SEM enables us to assess complicated relationship with many variables together. So that's why I mentioned that PLS SEM here is also a multivariate data analysis method. Multivariate here basically here means that multiple regression. So we can use that to make predictions about the behavior of a system, a behavior of a consumer, or behavior of the employee. So SEM is a very powerful tool for us to understand the structure of the data and help us to test the hypothesis based on the framework that we have developed. Okay, so after you attended this session, so software and statistical approach is not the same. So when people ask you, what is the software that you use? Then you can say Smart PLS, SPSS, AMOS, and Stata, so on. But when people ask you, what is your statistical approach? Then you should explain the statistical approach, not giving the software. Okay, now, so since I talk about PLS SEM, right? So PLS SEM is getting very popular, all right? So how it started out with its popularities is because of Professor Wayne Chin. I'm not sure you know about him. So some of us actually cite quite a lot of his paper. So it's through the seminal work by Professor Wayne Chin and also the Tanis, okay, in 2005, together with Professor Joe Hare. I believe you have here his name before. When you do multivariate analysis, right? So then you will often cite Hare. Okay, so this is the gentleman, Professor Hare. Okay, so based on their seminal work, so partial least square structural equations is getting very popular. Based on just now the list of characteristic or the attribute of PLS SEM can do. So of course, software and statistical approach, they are not standalone, so they are interrelated. So you can see that this graph that is displaying here, this is retrieved from Chia and colleagues' work in 2024. So this highlight that Smart PLS software, okay, Smart PLS software is getting popular in tandem with the pervasiveness of PLS SEM. So PLS SEM get very popular because of all this researcher here based on their research work. They mentioned how PLS SEM can help us to do our analysis. Now, so when we are doing our analysis, we need some statistical software. So Smart PLS is one of them. So that's why it's getting very popular, right? So, okay, now I zoom on a bit about the software that we can use to do different kind of structural equations modeling. So on your left-hand side here, for variance-based structural equations modeling or our PLS SEM here, so these are the list of software that can help to do the analysis. So for today's purposes, I'm going to look at Smart PLS. Okay, so of course we have WAP PLS. So this one, the interface, right, is not as it's not very presentable as a Smart PLS. So WAP PLS is developed by Professor Nick Koch, and then we have Adenco. Adenco is developed by Professor Hensler. So in the earlier days, when we cite the Smart PLS related work, we will also have mentioned about Professor Hensler. So he was the one who talked about HTMT, heterod monotrod trait in our discriminant validity. So now we have Gesca as well. So this is another software developed by a Korean researcher, right, where he is residing in US. And of course, we also can have Stata and R packages. So on your right-hand side here, so this is the covariance-based structural equations modeling. So in the past, the popular software that being used is MOS. And of course, M+, Real, EQS, Stata, and R packages can also run the software. But if you can see right now, as today now, so Smart PLS can also run CBSEM. So that's why in the earlier sessions just now, I mentioned that when you are being asked, what is your statistical approach, then you should mention either is PLS SEM, CBSEM, or maybe say multiple regressions analysis. So you shouldn't say Smart PLS, because nowadays Smart PLS can actually run these two types of structural equations modeling. All right. Okay. Now, so I move on. Okay. So how the Smart PLS software evolved here is that in why Smart PLS getting very popular just now that I show you the graph that is in tangent, because of all this professor and all this researcher, we very thankful to them that they explain this PLS SEM approach very well. So that's why its popularities increase. Now, so then another part here is back then is not so popular is assuming that we want to run the PLS SEM algorithm. So we have to know how to do programming. So because in the past, all the software that run the PLS SEM analysis, they are based on syntax. So they are purely syntax. But in year 2005, Professor Christian Ringer, which is the developer of this software, he and his team together come up with Smart PLS 2, okay, or Smart PLS version 2. So this is how the interface look like. So this interface here is very user-friendly because you do not need to know programming. So they have do away with all the pure syntax. So that's why it is very easy to use, right? Assuming that you are not you do not have programming knowledge, you do not have programming background, you can actually use this software to run the PLS SEM analysis. So, and then back then, this PLS SEM version 2 here is free of charge. So you just need to renew it by sending your email, okay, by updating it, then you can get the license and you can run your analysis. So in a way, this Smart PLS version 2 here is a very it's actually how it started as a popular software. But 10 years later, in year 2015, so Professor Christian Ringer, together with his team, has come up with another version, which is Smart PLS version 3. So in this version 3 here, this is a commercial package. So you need to pay to buy the license in order to run the analysis. But nevertheless, for this Smart PLS 3 here, it's also getting more and more user like to use this software because they have redesigned the interface, which are more interactive graphical user interface, as you can see. Okay, so it's very popular though. And then this software in the version 3, they actually allow you to choose the language that you prefer. So instead of using English, so there are also have Arabs, there are also you can also run the analysis based on the language that you prefer. So then it make it very easy and very useful. So that's why Smart PLS software is getting very popular. Okay, so subsequently, a lot of updates that have happened, and not long ago, this few weeks ago. So they have another update. So that is currently the version that we have is 4.1.0.6. So they have updated it many things. So in the Smart PLS version 3, they already started up with multi-group analysis with the iterations effect. So iterations effect here is actually the moderations effect. Okay, so the moderation effect. So in this Smart PLS version 4 here, which is 4.1.0.6 here, so it can also do covariance-based structural equations modeling. In fact, last year, in the first time when it launched version 2, it already capable to run CBSEM. And the latest version here, they have also incorporated this Gaussian copula that is to test on endogeneity. There is also incorporated this necessary condition analysis, which I attempted to show you if we have the time. And they have also incorporated regression model. So that's why when you say you're using Smart PLS software, right? So you have not answered, assuming someone asks you what is your statistical analysis approach that you use. That's when you have not answered the question. Smart PLS is a software. So this Smart PLS software currently, you can say that it can be a standalone software that you can run many analyses together. Okay, so you can just with this software answer a lot of the question. Okay, so that's why it is getting very popular. All right, so and then for this latest version here, they also incorporated process. If some of you are familiar with SPSS, if you want to run moderations and mediation, you need to add on process. But now you do not need to use two different software. With Smart PLS alone, you can do it. Okay, so there are lots of improvement, a lot of they often debug it. Okay, so if they found any bugs, then they will update it. So then this is the latest version. Okay, now, so if you are familiar with covariance-based structural equations modeling, where back then you use MOS, then you may also have heard of Professor James Kaskin. Okay, so Professor James Kaskin has also given a testimonial to Smart PLS because now CBSEM can be run using Smart PLS. So it is really very user-friendly. Okay, so now moving on. Right, so the focus for today, we want to discuss about PLS SEM and we want to learn how to do it. So for structural equations modeling, there are two big umbrella that I have been talking about. So the first one here is covariance-based SEM. So covariance-based SEM relies on covariance metric, which they are based on the common factor. So all the measurement model that use under the category of CBSEM here, their objective here is to estimate the parameters of the structural model where it is based on maximum likelihood estimation method. So this is used when the emphasis is on testing complex theoretical model. So if you are using CBSEM, most of us, we will interpret it as you are trying to confirm a theory. Okay, on the other hand, when you say that you are using variance-based structural equations modeling or PLS SEM here, so this approach is more on variance explained on the dependent variable by the latent construct. Okay, so in this case, the objective will be more like predictive and causal. So that's why often the candidate was considering which analysis to use that is actually based on your research objective. Are you trying to confirm theory, or whether the analysis that you run that is a very strong theory or very much theory oriented, then you should use CBSEM. Okay. However, your objective here is to do some prediction to understand the causal effect, then variance-based structural equations modeling, particularly partially square, that will be your choice. Okay. Now, so SEM, as mentioned, there are two categories or two umbrella. So we can differentiate that based on these three dimensions. Okay, so covariance based here is using common factor. So as mentioned just now, the common factor here, they actually try to minimize the difference between the theoretical covariance matrix with the sample that you have collected. So that's why in the approach of covariance-based structural equations modeling, your end result, you always try to look for model fit. So that's mean the theory and the model that you have collected, they are more or less the same. Then in this case, we can testify that the framework or the model that you have developed actually fit into the data. Okay, so then this is the objective of our covariance-based structural equations modeling. And their input here is consider full information. Now, what do we mean by full information here? So full information here, it is the approach to examine the relationship between the variable simultaneously. Any changes in the model specification here will affect the fit index. Okay, so but this is not our focus today. So today we want to look at PLS SEM. So for PLS SEM, it is using the composite approach. And in this case, the optimization criterion here is variance-based. So variance-based here, that means that they are trying to create proxy as the weighted sum of the indicator variable, and then they share the variance. So that's why in the PLS SEM approach here, we want to see how much variance that it can explain, right? And in this case, they are using a partial information. So because changes in the model specification will not affect the structure. So that's why this is the generally how this two category of the structural equations modeling are being classified. Okay, so if you want to know more about this, this is a good paper for you to read. So this paper here explain the difference between factor-based and also composite-based. Okay, so yeah, so this paper actually explain common factor composite under PLS SEM. And if you are using CB SEM, so this will be the approach. Okay, so I think this slide I have showed before in the first session. So this is a more detailed one explaining about the two different category of structural equations modeling, that is covariance-based and variance-based structural equations modeling. So for covariance-based is what you can see here is more like confirming theory. But for variance-based structural equations modeling, so it's more like prediction. For variance-based, this is more of data-driven. So that's why we want to see the variance explained. So whether at the end result here, how much the variance can be explained. Okay, but for the covariance based structural equations modeling, our objective here is to confirm the theory. Okay, so but right now in this case, the last row here, you can say that it needs to be updated already because currently Smart PLS software also capable to run CB SEM. All right, so then this is the more details comparison between CB and also VB SEM. Okay, now so often researcher will ask which category am I supposed to use? So I mentioned that it is based on your research objective. So if your research is already much have a prior theory, it is very strong, then your objective is to confirm theory, then covariance-based SEM is your choice. So for covariance-based structural equations modeling, it can analyze small to medium-sized model, but there is a catch here. So for covariance-based structural equations modeling, you need to have the assumptions of normalities of data. So your sample size need to be large enough. Now this second and third bullet point is not the same. So here means that the sample size, right? So just now I mentioned to you that in the last sessions we mentioned or we discussed that before we proceed with data analysis, there are few considerations. Besides of the sampling technique, the next thing we need to look at is the sample size, because the sample size will affect your result. Okay, so this one, the second bullet point here is actually talk about the sample size, 400, 600, 800, 1000. And then this one talk about the size of the model. The size of the model here, are you having 3 independent variable with 1 mediator with 1 dependent variable? So then this is called the sample size. All right. So and then for PLS SEM here, or variance-based structural equations modeling here, so this is the combinations of theory development and also prediction. So for this approach, this statistical approach of variance-based SEM here, normalities of the data distribution is not required. Okay, so this is also often in our social science case, we do not have the sampling frame and we do not have the populations, the entire census here for us to run the analysis. So that's why this is sometimes called the soft modeling. So if you have a smaller sample size, so for instance, your sample size is only something like 100 responses, PLS SEM can also run this. And then for PLS SEM, it also able to run formative construct. Okay, but for covariance space, they can only run reflective model. Okay, so as you can see here, all right. So they can only run a reflective model. So if you use formative, then it will be identified as reflective model. So in that's the case, if the conceptualizations part of it is incorrect, then the data or the analysis that you run, right, then that will be questionable. So that's why you need to understand the statistical approach that you are using. Are you using covariance space or are you using variance space? Okay, right. So this is another justifications of why you want to use why you want to use a variance space structural equations modeling. So sometimes it's because of the model complexity. So say that you have say 5 independent variable, 2 mediator, 2 moderator, and then you have a serial of mediation. Then in this case, variance space structural equation will be the correct approach. And then for distributional assumptions here, that is whether have your data achieve the actually achieve the normal distribution. Okay, and then sample size and statistical power. So variance space structural equations modeling here capable for looking into smaller sample size. So this could be in the situations that sometimes we are, say, in the economics setting, we may have oligopoly market structure. So in the situations of oligopoly market structure, then the number of firms in the industry is small. So then in this case, if you're going to go for MOS, which is the software, and you're going to use the covariance space structural equations modeling, you will not able to get your result because they have not achieved the normality assumption. So that's why variance space structural equations will be a better approach. And just now I mentioned that for variance space structural equations approach, our objective here is causal predictive. So that's mean we want to look at the cause, the antecedent and consequences, the cause and effect together with predictive. Okay, so for covariance space structural equations modeling, they are more for confirmatory. Right? So we can also use secondary data. So sometimes you might not be collecting primary data. So if you have secondary data, variance space structural equations modeling here can also do it. And if you have formative measure or the formative construct. Okay, so after we know about the reason for us to use the PLS SEM or variance space SEM here, then the next thing here, what we're going to do here is we're going to assess the measurement model followed by the structural model. So for measurement model here, last sessions, we have also covered that there are 2 types. We have reflective and formative. Okay, so later I have some slide explaining on that part as well. So, but sometimes if you are not very certain whether is that reflective or is that formative, in the latest Smart PLS software here, you can also test it using confirmatory tetra analysis to confirm that the measurement that you are using either is a reflective or is a formative measure. But notes to highlight here is that it's still based on theory. It's not based on data. Whether it's a formative measure or it is a reflective measure. So after we have checked the measurement model, excuse me. So after we have checked the measurement model, then we'll move on to the structural model. Structural model in this case here will be the hypothesis testing. Okay, so yeah, so then this will be the part that we'll be testing. We will be looking into the variance inflation factor. So this one is to test on the collinearity. Then we look at the explanatory power, out sample, and also in sample prediction. So this one I will also explain a bit later. And then we check on the significance and relevance of our path coefficient. So this will be your hypothesis testing. And now the latest software, we can also do model comparison. Okay, model comparison. Okay, now so quite a number of recap here. So before we proceed further, these are again some of the terminology that we need to understand. So what you can see in the slide here, these are the model elements. So before we going to test whether our hypothesis is significant or not, our very first step here is we need to ensure that our outer model or our measurement model here need to be reliable and valid. Okay, so the first step here is to look at our measurement model here, whether they are reliable and valid. Okay, now, so here you can see we can have reflective model, we can have formative model. So reflective model will be arrow pointing out from the construct to the indicator. Okay, I repeat, for reflective model, we will have the arrow pointing out from the construct to the indicator. So in this case here, we will call that as loading. Okay, so this will be the factor loading. So Y2 here is another construct, but in this case, this is the formative measurement model. Formative measurement model, you will see that the arrow is pointing in from the indicator to the construct. Okay, so that's why all these indicators here form this construct. So therefore, formative model here is the cause. Okay, whereas reflective model here is a reflection. So therefore, this is the consequences. So we need to make sure what sort of a measurement model that we are using. Then we will have different approach to test it. So after we have looked into our measurement model, which is our outer model of our exogenous lantern variable, or in other words, in this simple context here, this Y1 and Y2 are our independent variable. We call that as exogenous variable here is because this is in the context of structural equations modeling. So in a simple regression, we'll just call Y1 and Y2 as the independent variable. Okay, so after we have clear with our first step, where measurement model already testified that it's reliable and valid, then we move on to the next one here. This is the structural model where we call the inner model. So the inner model here, this is the part where we're going to test our hypothesis. So assuming we have two hypotheses here, is these two hypotheses significant, right? So then these are some of the terms that we use in the structural equations modeling. Okay, so for structural equations modeling, so this one here, this is the path coefficient. So that's mean we want to know the beta. Okay, so yes, so then this is the case. All right, so just now I have already explained. So for all kind of structural equations modeling analysis, we have two stages. The very first step, we need to ensure our measurement model is reliable and valid. Okay, so measurement model reliable and valid. For reflective measurement here, we're going to look into the internal consistency, discriminant validity. So these are the things that we look at. For formative measure, because formative measure, this indicator form this construct. So that's why here we call weight. So in this case, we are using significance here. We're using significance to test whether all these indicators are significantly leading to or forming this construct. Okay, yeah, so then the approach will be different. Okay, so then for stage 2 here, assuming that all our measurement model here or our outer model here we confirm reliable and valid, then only we're going to test the hypothesis. Then only we're going to test on the structural model. So therefore, stage 2, which is the structural model evaluations here, it will determine whether the hypothesized theoretical relationship present or not between the construct. So that's mean we want to find out is Y1 leading to Y3, is Y2 leading to Y3. So then these are our hypotheses. Okay, yeah. So here again, the explanation on reflective measurement model. So reflective measurement model, that's mean that this construct here can be reflected by Y1, Y2, Y3. So this we call the reflective measurement model. Arrow is pointing from construct to indicator. So all this part here we call loading. So because this construct here is caused by this, so therefore they have a high correlation. So if you remove one, you still can continue to measure this construct. Okay, so the indicator here are the representative of the manifestations of this lantern variable. So that's why they are highly correlated. So you remove Y1 here, Y2 and Y3 still able to represent this construct here. So removal of any indicator here will not change the meaning of the lantern variable. So then this is reflective measurement. Okay, so for reflective measurement, so this is look like this. So we have to test at the measurement level here. We need to check on the internal consistency. So how do we check internal consistency? The statistical method that we have reflected here will be Cronbach alpha, composite reliability, and we can also use Dijkstra-Hensler real composite reliability real A here to measure. Okay, and we need to check on the convergent validity. So this one we can use factor loading and we can use average variance extracted. So, and then the other one is discriminant validity. In the past, we used Fornell-Lecker criterion, but it has been criticized that Fornell-Lecker criterion is very lenient. So that's why we move on to something more stringent, which is heterod-monotone ratio of correlation, in short HTMT. So this was developed by Professor Hensler in 2016, right? So now they have also have another version called HTMT2. So that's why I told you that research is a very dynamic field. So there's always a lot of update. We need to ensure that the statistical analysis that we run is rigor enough for us to produce credible finding. All right, so then this is the typical reflective measurement model assessment, and we can have formative measurement model as well. Formative measurement, as just I explained, is arrow pointing from indicator to construct. So that's why all these indicators here form this construct. So we cannot simply remove, say, X1 or X2 or X3. Okay, so they are not correlated. Okay, so the relationship between the indicator and the construct in the formative measurement model here, we call this as weight. Okay, so the indicator causes the lantern variable. Whereas for just now, these are the consequences. Okay, so the construct leads to these consequences, or rather leads to all this effect. So that's why you can remove any one here, but the meaning of the lantern variable remain. However, for formative construct, you cannot remove any of them. Okay, so because removal of any indicator will change the meaning of the lantern variable. So this will be the case that if you want to understand hotel satisfactions, right? So assuming that the formative measure here is price, okay, service, ambience. So you see that if I remove price, living, service, and ambience, it cannot just stand alone reflect hotel satisfaction. But, excuse me, if I'm going to say for hotel satisfaction here, the staff are friendly, the staff is very helpful, the staff always greet me with a smile. So all this is also leads to hotel satisfaction. But if I remove any of this lantern construct here, the meaning remain the same, right? So that is the difference between reflective and formative measure. And recent development have mentioned that there are two types of formative measurement model. We can have crosser indicator, okay, because just now we mentioned that all this indicator here leads to cause this lantern variable, right? So then this is the crosser indicator, and it can also be understood as the composite indicator. So this is actually explained in this paper that just now I share with you in understanding factor and composite. So you can see that for the at the formative level here, okay, so we can have crosser indicator, we can have composite indicator. So then this is what trying to say here. Okay, now so if it's crosser indicator, then there will be an error term. So therefore, the R square will not equals to 1. So if we're going to look at it and the composite indicator approach, the R square will be equals to 1. In the context of smart PLS software here, it will use the approach of composite indicator. So therefore, the R square will be equals to 1. Okay, so for formative measurement model, so these are the way to assess its validity and also reliability. So for formative measurement model, we can use redundancy analysis to measure the convergent validity. Now, so that's why I mentioned about the considerations before data analysis, assuming that in your research model, there is a formative measurement model, you must have a global item. Okay, so you must have a global item in order for you to run the convergent validity, which you can be reflected in the redundancy analysis. So then only you can proceed with the next phase for your structural model assessment. And then we also have collinearity analysis here, So in this case, we again use the proxy of variance inflation factor. So please note that this collinearity here, later when we have our structural model, we also have another collinearity. So in this collinearity analysis here, this is trying to say that this is often what we call as this one, vertical collinearity. So I want to ensure that the item X1 here is not the same as item X2. Okay, so then that is the vertical collinearity. All right. So, and to test on for this formative measurement model here, we use significance and relevance of the formative indicator. So in this case, we run bootstrapping. Okay, so bootstrapping here, that's mean they are doing resampling. Okay, so they are doing resampling. So that's why in the PLS SEM approach here, the assumptions of data normalities is relaxed because they run bootstrapping. So the resampling process here will actually help to achieve the data normality. Okay, yeah. So then these are the two kind of measurement model under the situation of structural equations modeling. So if we're going to look at CB-SEM approach, we are actually analyzing it as reflective measurement model. But if you have formative measurement model where the indicator form the construct, so then that is regarded as formative measurement model, you need to run using PLS SEM approach. In this case, Smart PLS, you can do it. Okay. Now, so then this is the recap, assuming that we are going for reflective measurement model. Okay. So to evaluate the reflective measure model, so our first step here, we look at indicator reliability. So indicator reliability is shown in the outer loading, where our threshold here, it has to be higher than 0.708. So this is the acceptable threshold. Okay, after we check on the reliability, the next thing here, we want to check on consistency. So in this case, we look at composite reliability. So composite reliability, for it to be acceptable, it has to be above 0.7. Okay, and then next step here, we test on convergent validity. Convergent validity is indicated by average variance extracted. So here we have 0.5. Okay, so this 0.5, the average variance extracted here is very much related with our indicator reliability. So because if you're going to have the square root of 0.5, then you'll get 0.708 or 0.707 something. Okay, so then the fourth step here is to do the discriminant validity. Okay, so in the past, we used Fornell-Lecker approach. For Fornell-Lecker approach, you have to make sure that the diagonal value there is higher than is above of others indicator, right? So, but now there is a criticism saying that Fornell-Lecker criterion is very relaxed, very lenient. So that's why we move on to HTMT value. So for HTMT value, if it's supposed to be lower than 0.85, so this is by Klein. Okay. So if your value is slightly higher than 0.85, you can use the approach by goal. Okay, sorry, I forgot to put here the researcher name here. So this will be actually by goal. Okay. Okay, sorry, let me continue with the slide sharing. Okay, so yeah, this was where I stopped just now. Yeah, so then we can. Okay, so then this is the threshold you can look into. Okay, so this is actually a paper that I published last year. So for today's demonstrations purpose, I'm going to use this data to run the analysis. So if it's time permits, I'll also show you how to run the necessary condition analysis. Basically, I'm using this this paper that I have published. I'm using the data here to demonstrate. Okay, so and then sometimes when we have too much information when we want to present, right? So we can also use this approach. So this is also another paper that I published together with others of my colleagues. So assuming that, say, for instance, this construct here have 5 items, instead of you present your you present or report your analysis in this way, you can also use this approach. Okay, so for today's demonstrations purpose, I'm going to use this data. All right. So for structural model, just now for our measurement model, if it's a reflective, so we have this 4-step. So after we're done with the measurement model, we'll move on with our structural model. So for our structural model assessment, our very first step here, we still need to check on collinearity. So just now we have, if we look at the formative measure, we have this, if we look at the formative measure, okay, we have vertical collinearity, right? So for the structural model, we will be looking at the lateral collinearity, okay, lateral. So in the formative measure, we look at the vertical. So after we're done with the VIF, okay, variance inflation factor, our next step here is to assess the path coefficient. So in this case here, we look at the bootstrapping. Okay, so after we're done with the bootstrapping with the T statistic and then also the p-value, the next thing we look at is the R-square. Remember, the objective of doing PLS SEM here is to check on the variance explained. We want to explain as much variance as possible. Okay, so then we're going to look at R-square. So if your R-square, okay, is above certain value, then we'll consider that that is acceptable, minimum, or large. Okay, so but for this R-square here is basically follow your field of study. So assuming that you are doing something like marketing related study, so if you get an R-square about 50 something, so then it is acceptable. So if your field is about finance, so if you get an R-square where it's say 15%, that is considered very good. Okay, so the R-square based on your field of study, but we often have a simple guideline by Cohen. Okay, then the step 4 here is to assess the effect size. Now, so why we need to assess the effect size here is, remember in our model, we have a number of an exogenous variable, or simple term, we have the independent variable. So for this effect size here is, we want to understand each of these variable, what is their effect to the endogenous variable. Okay, to make things simple here is, we want to understand what is the effect of the independent variable towards the dependent variable when others of the independent variable are not there. So then that is the effect size. So because with this effect size, later on, it can also help us to say when you are writing a paper, it can help you to explain on the implication, right? And then the last step here is, remember PLS SEM, our objective is causal predictive. We want to know that the model that we have testified, the model that we have developed and testified, how much it can predict the out of sample data. Okay, so then that is the PLS predict. All right, so then this is actually the objective why we are using PLS SEM. So instead of CBSEM, so CBSEM is to confirm theory. But for PLS SEM here, we also want to do prediction. So then that's why PLS SEM is getting more and more popular. So, and then also in the marketing field, many are using PLS SEM here is based on the model the researcher have developed. How can the marketeers or the marketing field or the marketing expert there, they can predict how is the trend. So that's why PLS SEM is again very popular. So for this one, we can use PLS predict. So Q square now already retired. So we can use RMSE or MAE here to look at the PLS predict. Okay. Now, so this is the paper by Professor Shimali, where she talked about the assessment of PLS predict. Okay. Now, so for our structural model assessment, we have the R-square, right? So the R-square actually explains the variance based on the data that we collected. So that means it's in a way it is in sample. So, but when we have PLS predict here, that means based on the data that we have, can we predict outside of the sample? So then that is the out of sample prediction. Okay, so this is the very popular paper also in this paper is by Professor Shimali. So this one is published in 2019. And then as of now, the citation actually has gone out into 2,360. So if you check out on this paper, right, So after this paper was submitted to the Journal of Business Research, it actually immediately got accepted. And then it has invited a lot of citation. So then that actually means that this paper actually is a significant footholder for the PLS predict. Okay, so under this paper here, okay, so I mentioned that Q square, right, already retired. So this one, basically they look into the RMSE and also the MAE. So if this depends which approach that you're going to use depends on the symmetric of your data. So we can look at it from the histogram. So if your data is symmetrical, then you can use RMSE. If your data is not symmetrical, you can use MAE. So the similar explanations or the similar interpretations that we're going to have. So if minority of the indicator is where our PLS SDM is less than the linear model, okay, then that will be considered low predictive power. So if the majority of the indicator of which the PLS SDM is less than the linear model, then it's considered medium predictive power. However, if all the indicator having their PLS SEM less than the linear model, then we consider that as a high predictive power. Okay, maybe I skip this necessary conditions analysis first. Okay, so now I actually have also used an hour to explain the PLS approach, right? So now we're going to look into the analysis. Okay, so now I'm going to stop sharing the slide here. I'm going to, okay, so if you have not used Smart PLS before, right, and you intend to use it, so my advice to use here is you don't download the software first until you have all the data, then only you download the software. Because this software that they actually allow you, sorry, I'm showing my, let me close this. Okay, so I want to stop share. Okay, so now I want to show you where you can download this. Okay, so you can go to, let me see, is my screen visible? Let me continue. I hope my screen is visible.
Yes, it is.
Okay, thank you. Thanks. Okay, now you can go to Google and then you look up for Smart PLS download. Okay, so there is, I have to tell you, there is no cracked version for Smart PLS. So please don't use the cracked version. Okay, so the cracked version may not be stable, and as far as I know, there's no cracked version. Okay, you can please download from the genuine website. So you can just type Smart PLS download. It will lead you to this website. Okay, so you see the current version here is 4.1.0.6. So you can click here and then you can download based on the whatever device that you are using. Are you using Microsoft or are you using MacBook? Okay, so then you download following your device. So after you get downloaded, you can have 1 month free trial. So in this 1 month free trial, you can run the full analysis. So then this is a good thing that many scholars like that because you have a 1 month free trial. Okay, so after the 1 month free trial, then you have to purchase the license. So the license actually is also, to me, I find that the license is quite, they have packaged it in a way that's very friendly. So assuming that you are not having a lot of data that you run, you can actually purchase for 1 month. If you are academician, you can actually show your tag and show proof that you are academician, then they can give you further discount as well. Okay, because I understand that in my home country, euro is actually very expensive. So, but then we can actually use our academics, or if you are a student, you can show your student card to justify, then they are giving you some discount. Okay, now, so you can download this software from here. Okay, so now I'm going to zoom into another site. So assuming that you have downloaded it, so then you will go to this Smart PLS interface. Okay, so I hope my screen is visible. So this is the Smart PLS interface. So you will have this Smart PLS here. So you see the latest version is here, 4.1.0.6. Okay, so inside here, if you have the time, so beside of what I'm going to show you here, if you have the time, you can also explore. There are a lot of sample projects that are available here. Okay, so see, you have the sample project. So if you have the PLS SEM Premier Book, the corporate reputation, the sample data is also available here. So if you are familiar with UTAU model or TAM model, so they also have sample data here for you to play around. Okay, so for you to play around. Okay, so now maybe for our demonstrations purpose, now I show you. So this is the gray area, right? So this gray area is what Professor Ringel called this as the workplace. So after you downloaded the software, just now I show you where you can get it downloaded. You need to save in a workplace in your computer or in your laptop. So then you will choose what workplace you want to save in. So you need to choose a workplace that is empty. Then you will able to, that means that all your work that you're going to use this software will be placed under that folder. Okay, so I repeat. So after you downloaded the software, so you will ask to choose a workplace. So the workplace here, you need to choose an empty folder either in your laptop or in your computer. So this workplace here is going to save all the work that you have done in this software into that folder. Okay, so then that is the workplace. So now, right now, I want to show you using just now a paper that I have published. I'm going to use the data and show you how to run the two simple analysis, which is the measurement model and also structural model. So for the measurement model, I am taking the reflective measurement model. Okay, so I will start here. Okay, so here when you click this Smart PLS here, you see we can switch license. So for my case, I have a license. All right, so that is 61 days. So, but if you don't have this, right, they also have a student license. But for the student license, it's free for lifetime, but it can only access or it can only evaluate or run 99 data. So you see most of our data will be hundreds over, right? So then there is a limited function there. So, but nevertheless, it give you some indications, how is your data like, Okay, so, and then preference here, you can choose your language. Just like I mentioned in the Smart PLS version 3, they already have this function. You can choose the number, you can choose the language that you prefer. So say if you like Arabic, you can choose Arabic. So if you want Chinese, you can choose Chinese as well. So there is a list of languages here suited to all the user worldwide. So you can choose, okay? And then the decimal point as well. Or you, sometimes we all, our phone, we have certain preference. You want to choose the dark mode also possible, light mode or dark mode. So for instance, you want light mode or dark mode. So for instance, okay, it will look like this. Okay, so depending on your preference. So that's why I say that this software is very, very user friendly. Okay, so I go back to the light mode, the conventional one that I have been using. Okay, so now we start the analysis. Okay, now we start the analysis. So I'm going to begin with a new project. Okay, so I give myself this project called demo, and I'm going to put today's date, which is 30th July. Okay, so you can follow whatever projects that you like. So for time being, you don't need to do anything first. You just see how I do it. This is really very simple. So I created a new project. So then you will see in your workspace here, there is this tab, the name of today's project, Demo 30th July 2024. So I'm going to input my data file now. Okay, so I already saved that in my thumb drive. Okay, so then this is my data file. Okay, so in my data, I'm actually save it as the CSV file. So again, another improvement that Smart PLS software have done is that in the past, all the data have to be in CSV file, then only it can run. Okay, but currently, assuming that your data file is in Excel, it can run already. Okay, so to put things simple, your data is in Excel, then it is okay. So it will be able to run. Okay, so then I open. All right, so then this is the next things that you see. Okay, let me pull up. Okay, now, so this is the things that you can see here. So because I'm using a what we call CSV file. Oh, sorry. Let me continue. Import data. from this file. Okay, open. Okay. Now, so this is the data that will be imported. Okay. The name of the file, this is data variable device 1. Okay. So these are all my indicator. Okay. So remember that when we do our analysis, right, we have our measurement scale. Okay. So we can have a categorical, or we call nominal. Okay. We have ordinal scale. We have categorical scale. So in this case, I'm using the case of Likert scale. So therefore, you can consider that is metric or it is ordinal. So I have actually test run it, whether you put metric or ordinal, there's no difference. So therefore, please do not need to confuse with this. Okay. But if you are using categorical data, like for instance, 1 means male, 2 means female, then you have to change that. Okay, so they also have this bug change. So what does that mean? So for instance, right now, I want to change all my indicator here into ordinal. So what I'm going to do here is I click this one. Okay, I can click bug change. So I'm going to change to ordinal. Okay, so then you will see all change to ordinal. So because I'm using Likert scale 1 to 5. Okay, 1 means strongly disagree, 5 means strongly agree. So you'll see the data that show here is mean and max. Okay, so all is 1 to 5. Okay, so then after that, let me do this one. So then I import the data. Okay, so I import the data. Okay, so after I imported the data, so it come to this screen. So just now was gray, right? So gray is the workspace. So this blue is our modeling space. Okay, so you can, copy all this into Excel. So sometimes certain journals that require you to do the descriptive analysis. So all these are your indicator. What is the mean value? What is the median? What is the skill mean? What is the skill max? Okay, so if you like to, you can actually copy this one into Excel. Okay, so you can copy and then paste into Excel. So then this will be so-called your descriptive analysis. Okay, so in the past, we need to do that in SPSS, but now you do not need to do that. So you can have one stop, you can do everything. Okay, I go back to, so from this analysis here, they also show you the standard deviation, okay, kurtosis and skewness. So for kurtosis and skewness here is a general indicator to look at the data normality. Okay, so if the value fall between -1 to +1, so then that is considered normal. So you can see the data here is considered normal. So in the latest version here, they have also added on with this Kramer-Wald misses p-value. So this is also another approach to look at data normality. Okay, so they present all the result for you. Then this is your choice what you want to report. Okay, right. So then, so you can see in this, my case here, I have in my case here, I have 22 indicator and I have responses of 391. So now after I inputted the data, I go back. Okay, now I'm going to create the data. Now I'm going to create the, model. Just now I inputted the data. So now I'm going to create the model. Okay, so we have the project. Now the model type here we're going to choose. So for today's objective, I'm going to look at PLS SEM. So that's why I choose PLS SEM. So from the choices here, you can also see they have regression, process, and CB-SEM. Okay, so you can see PLS SEM, CB-SEM, process, and regression. So this is the latest version. Okay, so for my case, I want to show you how to run PLS SEM. I click on PLS SEM and I name my model again. So this is the project. So this is my model. I put the same name, demo, say 30th July 2024. Okay, so I save. Okay, so after I save, I will come to this canvas. So this is using the model, a very simple model that I have, that I would like to show you. So this is the case. I have 5 independent variable leading to 1 dependent variable. Or you can say I have 5 exogenous variable leading to 1 endogenous variable. So I have perceived usefulness, perceived ease of use, and so on. So then I go back to my Smart PLS. So this is intention to use. So this is my dependent variable or my endogenous variable. I drag it here and I let go. Okay, so then here I can rename it as intention to use. Okay, I enter. Okay, so you see ORD here is just now I have chosen the skill as ordinary skill, right? So these are all my indicator. So now what I'm going to do is I highlight all this independent variable here. I highlight and then I drop it. Okay, so I can further rename this as perceived usefulness. Okay, I enter. Okay, right? So I have one here. So then I continue with others. So after I perceive usefulness, I have my perceived ease of use. Okay, I drag it and drop. Okay, so I remain as it is. Okay, perceived ease of use. Okay, then another one, I have perceived trust. I highlight and then I drop. Okay, I highlight and drop perceived trust. Okay, right. So this because I have 5 independent variable, so I make it smaller, easier for you all to see. Okay, so later I'm going to arrange this one. Now, so because now the screen here might be, or the canvas here might be a bit cramped. So I want to align all this to the left-hand side. So then it look nice. So I'll just come here and then I can click this one. Okay, so then it will automatically arrange for me. Or I can also right click, then I will put, say, my indicator to the bottom. Or another approach, I highlight this one, I click here. All right, so then this is perceived trust. Okay, I have 2 more indicator, 2 more construct. Perceived privacy, I put here and drop. Okay, then my last one here is perceived innovativeness. I highlight and then I drop. Okay, so you can rename it if you want to have the full name. Okay, so I try to arrange my model into a nicer way. Okay, so I just put here. Okay, I put here. Okay, put here. Okay, here. Okay, then here, maybe I want it aligned at the bottom. Okay, so now what you can see here is I have put in all the construct in the canvas. But the issue here is all the construct here are red in color. So red means we cannot go. Okay, we cannot proceed. So what we're going to do, what we need to do right now is to connect them. Okay, so I click connect. I connect the first independent variable or the endogenous variable here. Sorry, exogenous here to the endo. Okay, I point all this to here. I point all this to here. Can you see now the color have changed? Okay, now the color have changed. Okay, so that means blue can go already. Okay, so you can actually adjust how you like it. If you still like that into the align at left, something like that. So it's up to you. So you want to align left. Okay, if you think this look nicer. Okay, so then up to you. Or assuming that sometimes when we want to publish our paper, if you're going to put in color, they will charge you. So therefore, you can also change the color. So you can see the color on your right-hand side panel here. I changed all that to black and white. So this is also possible. So sometimes because when we want to print or when to publish our paper, if you have color diagram, then they will charge you. Okay, but for today demonstration, I think it looked nicer with color. Okay, so then that means our model has been formed. So now what we're going to do next here is we go to calculate, we go to this view here, calculate, and then we press PLS SDM algorithm. So it will run for us. So I will use all the default setting and I start the calculation. Okay, so then now we go to the green area, right? So just now we have gray is the workplace, blue is the modeling space. So now green here is actually the report. Okay, so you see our result is already available here. Okay, so already available here. So remember just now I say we look into the measurement model. So these are all our measurement model. So we first check out on the perceived usefulness. How is the factor loading? Okay, all is above 0.708. So this one pass. So this one, is it above 0.708? Yes. Okay, so pass and so on and so forth. So all are pass. So then the next thing we also need to check on the ABE, right? You see when I put my cursor, okay, so when I put my cursor, just point at the construct, the result will show. Okay, so for this one, perceived usefulness, my composite reliability real A is 0.903. So it's again higher than 0.7. My average variance extracted is 0.773, higher than 0.5. Okay, my Cronbach alpha higher than 0.7 or higher than 0.8 if you like to. So it's acceptable, and my real C is 0.93. So that's mean in this case here, my measurement model has passed. Okay, so for reporting purposes, I'm going to go to, you see all the result actually available on your left-hand side here. Okay, because this is measurement model, reflective measurement model, I'm going to look at the outer loading. So when I click into the outer loading, right? So I have this matrix here. Okay, so I have this matrix here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this one into Excel. Okay, I'm going to copy this one into Excel. Okay, I paste it here. Okay, so then I have all the factors loading here already. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I want to show you how to do the reporting. So because I'm using the data from this paper that just now I show you, this one. Okay, so actually it's this paper, if you can see my screen. So it isn't enough to be easy and useful. So this one I use combining PLS SEM with necessary conditions analysis. Okay, so I come back here. So just now I copy into Excel, right? So I copy into Excel. Later I arrange that nicely. So yeah, so this is the factor loading. I also need to report on the construct reliability and validity. So this is the overview. So this show the qualities of my measurement model. So again, you see my Cronbach alpha for all the construct, okay, is passed. My composite reliability is also passed. My average variance extracted is also passed. How we know whether it's passed or not? In this latest version, they have color. So it is green, that's mean okay. So I'm going to copy this one into Excel again. Okay, I put it here. So now I'm going to arrange it nicely. So that is usually how we report, right? So this is how we report. You see that classically, this is how we report. I'm going to show you. Okay. Right. So yeah. So we have our item. We're going to report our factor loading, Cronbach alpha, composite reliability, and average variance extracted. Okay. So I'm going to arrange that nicely. So this, I'm going to call that as my item or my indicator. Okay. So this one is all my factor loading. Okay. So this is all my factor loading. I'm going to move all of them here into one column. Okay. So I'm going to cut this and paste here. Okay, so I'm going to cut this and paste here. So I'm going to do the same for the rest. Okay, I'm going to cut this and paste here. Yeah, so for this demonstration purpose, I actually checked through my data. I try to choose a model or the data that have no issue to do the demonstration. But sometimes when we are doing our research work, right, it's not that easy lah. So sometimes we do have problem. Okay, so then I'm going to remove all this for all this column here. So then I have my factors loading. Okay, so here I'm going to name this as my construct. Okay, so IU here is intentions to use. Okay, right? So then I have my perceived, sorry. Okay, what's going on here? So here this is perceived ease of use. Okay, so this is perceived innovativeness. Okay, so this is actually innovativeness. So this is in the context of wearable devices. Okay, so whether are they easy or not? Do they have any concern in terms of the privacy? Okay, and then this is perceived trust. Whether the information given here is that something that you can trust. Okay, this one here is perceived, type 4, perceived usefulness. Okay, so later we can further adjust it to look it more presentable. Okay, so maybe we can also do that. Okay, so I'm going to put like this. Okay, where is the box? Okay, yeah. So later you can merge this. And here we try to use 3 decimal point. Okay, so we use 3 decimal point. Okay, so we use 3 decimal point. Okay, now, so what are all this? So I'm going to copy all this here into here. Oh, okay, so let me leave one column here. Okay, so what I'm trying to show you here is to how to do the reporting in Excel. Okay, so now intention to use, I copy this one into here. All right, so this is perceived ease of use. I copy this information here. Okay, then I have perceived perceived innovativeness.
Excuse me, ma'am, we do not see the screen of your Excel that you are working in.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't know that you cannot see. Okay, let me share again. Can you see now? Is it visible?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes,
now
yes,
it's
now it is
visible.
visible.
Okay,
We can-
apologies for that. Okay, so perceived innovativeness. Okay, I copy. Okay, so that's mean that you have missed this part. What I'm trying to do here is just now in the Smart PLS this green space, right? So this is the reporting part. So you can go to first, because now we are doing the reflective measurement model. You go to the outer loading. So this is where all the factors loading, that's what you can see in the Excel. Okay, the factor loading, you got that here. Okay, after that, you go to the Smart PLS under the quality criteria. You choose construct reliability and validity, the overview. This one, you copy that into Excel. Okay, so you copy that into Excel to produce the result or to produce the table, so that is for you to present in your journals, articles, writing. Okay, so I have my perceived privacy here, and then perceived trust. Okay, I will copy. Yeah, do let me know if you cannot see any screen that I am sharing. So else then we will not have a meaningful sessions if you cannot see the screen. Okay, so yeah, I copy here. All right, so then I'm going to remove this one because I have all the informations there already. Yeah, so then later you can further tidy up the file to make it more presentable. Okay, so for instance here, you may want to merge all this. Okay, so you may want to merge the cell, so then you look nice. Okay, so you're going to merge and then it's going to be top. So something like that. So that's mean this is the construct intention to use these other measurement item. Okay, so these are the measurement item, and then these are the factors, and then we have the Cronbach alpha value. Okay, and then we have the composite value, we have the average variance extracted, all this value here. Okay, so then later you can tidy up. Okay, so now what we have here is we have factor loading all this. What is missing for our measurement model here is the discriminant validity. So the discriminant validity, we go back to our Smart PLS here. So you see discriminant validity, the value is here. Okay, so the value is here. So I told you that for the current version here, right? So if it's green, that's mean okay. So if it's black, that means still acceptable. Then you have to choose what you have to choose which who to cite. So for this discriminant validity here, the result is here. You see that this one is above 0.5. Okay, so but it is below 0.9, correct? So if you remember, so I copy this one first. Okay, then I paste it here. Okay, so I have my what we call this one is my discriminant validity. So most of the time when I do my paper, right? So I will mention that this discriminative validity is using HTMT criterion. Okay, HTMT criterion. Criterion. Okay. So again, I will use 3 decimal point. Okay, so here I'm going to shade it. Okay, so because for discriminant validity here, I want to ensure that each of all this construct is unit for itself is measuring what it's intended to. So that's why this is called the discriminant validity. Okay, so just now in the slide, I have shared with you that I hope you can see my slide. So this is the measurement model, right? So I have done with the indicator reliability, which is the outer loading. Let me see, I can split screen or not. Can you still see my screen? So then I have done with the this one, the indicator reliability, which is the factor loading. Okay, internal consistency using composite reliability. I reported two composite reliability. Actually, in this context, I'm supposed to report real C only lah. All right. So, okay, and then I have my average variance extracted. My ABE is here. So my ABE, the value, okay, so yeah, sorry, this one I want to put it into 3 decimal point. Okay, so it's above 0.5. Okay, so then the next thing, I have my HTMT value. My HTMT value is here. So in this case, I will cite gold because below 0.9, because I have something like that. So if you have some all is below 0.85, then you report as client. Okay, so yeah, so then I have done with the measurement model. Okay, so now I'm going to go on to my structural model. Okay, so when I go on to my structural model, it's very easy. Let me. Okay, so for my structural model, okay, so just now what I have done is that I go to, okay, so I have all this. Yeah, by the way, my R square value is here. Okay, my R square value is here. My R square value here, maybe what I'm going to do is I also copy this and paste here first. Okay, so this is my R square. Okay, I have my adjusted R square. Adjusted R square always lower than R square. Okay, and then I have my F square. Remember, I told you F square here is the effect size. Okay, so if you look at this here, the effect size here. Okay, so which one is having the highest impacts to intentions to use? Okay, I can remove all this. Okay, delete. Fire. Okay. Oops. Undo. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I need to delete this part. Okay, this is not required. Okay. Okay, so if you look at this, right? So intention to use, I don't have any effect size here because that is the endogenous variable or the dependent variable. So therefore, no effect size. So among all the indicators, or sorry, among all the construct here, it is this perceived usefulness is having the highest impact because the value here is 0.157, and then you see it's a green. Okay, so for the perceived ease of use, it is in red. So in this case, it's less than 0.02. So therefore, I would say that this perceived ease of use here actually have no effect on this intentions to use. Okay, whereas for my perceived innovativeness, perceived privacy, and perceived trust here, we consider small impact. Okay, only perceived usefulness here, we have a higher impact. So this is also makes sense because this data that I'm collected is meant to look into the wearable devices. So whether the wearable devices is useful or not. So that's mean in this case here, it's very useful. So that's why people will intend to use it. Is that easy to use to them? That is not their concern. Okay, so is that very innovative? Is that very they have the information that provided there can be trusted, like for instance, how many steps that you walk, how much is your heartbeat, can it be trusted? So this one is still minor. Okay, so I have done with the reporting for my measurement model here. So now I go back to the Smart PLS website platform. Okay, so this is what you can see again. So what I'm going to do right now, I come out from this report here, I edit, okay? So I come back to this platform. So if you like to report this, you can actually right click and then export an image. Okay, so then you can export and then paste into say your words documents or wherever you want to report it. Okay, so you can paste it here. Okay, so for instance, later you want to report in your journals article. Okay, so there are also some function that I want to show you before I go on to the structural model analysis. Now, so you see right now, this is the case. So again, assuming that if you going to print in color, they're going to charge you, you can turn all that into black and white. Okay, but life is better with some color. Okay, yeah. So assuming that you see this, the wording here, right? The factor loading here, blocking the name of the variable, you can click here and move as well. Okay, so assuming that here you find that this one is you can also move up and down. Okay, you want to move it outside also can. Okay, or you think that this one you want to make it more presentable with some sorry, let me highlight this again. You want to make it something like that also can. Okay, so this is how nice the software have make it now. Okay, so maybe you want to align this, you want to adjust this. So that's how it works. So this software is really very user friendly. And then yeah, just I forgot to tell you. So for example, you don't like circle, so you can also change the shape here. Okay, so you want to change to rectangle also can. Okay, or you don't like rectangle, you want to change to hexagon also can. If you don't like hexagon, you want to change to octagon also can. All right, so but usually I will put a circle. Okay, and then you can also change the border, this border here. So just now we understand that perceived usefulness is the having the F square highest, right? So maybe for this one, I'm going to change the border to going to be thicker. Can you see my border become thicker already? Okay, I can change the color here. So perhaps I want to highlight this. You see, I can also change like that. Or maybe just now I accidentally type it, or I accidentally click this, I can undo. Okay, I can undo. So it's back to before. Or redo also can. So something like that. You want to change the font size, all that you can change here. Okay, now, so right now I haven't run the structural model, but I can actually do this, highlight the path, okay, using relative value. So can you see? Okay, so this one will highlight to us which one has the highest impact. Okay, or you don't like this, you off it. Okay, so yeah, so then that's what you have. Okay, so now I have the measurement model already. So now the last thing I'm going to do here is to check on the hypothesis, the 5 hypotheses that I have developed, whether is that positive or is that significant or not. So I'm going to run bootstrapping. Okay, so I click on bootstrapping. So you see the subsample here is 5,000. So just now my data set is 300 something. So is 5,000 sufficient? Okay, so to look at this subsample here, so long that this subsample number here is higher than your sample size, then that is okay. So of course, when you put a higher sample, right, a higher subsample, then it will take longer time to run. Okay, maybe for this purpose, I remain as the standard 5,000. Okay, so you can also have faster or longer. So for longer here, that means there will be more complete analysis. So for today's demonstration, I'll just put faster. Okay, so we will remain this as they said, 2 tail tests, because my case, I hypothesize that there is a positive relationship. In other words, it's a direct hypothesis. So therefore, I'm going to change this into 1 tail test. Okay, so what is fixed seed? In the past, we have random seed. But now in the latest development of this software here, you can choose fixed seed and also random seed. So for fixed seed here, that will be the case that you and me having the same data set. When we run the bootstrapping, doing the resampling, we have the fixed seed, then that means our p-value and our t-statistic will be the same. So in the past, if we are not running on a fixed seed, our random seed here, we will have different t-statistic, but it will still significant. So perhaps you will have 16.125. I may have 16.251. So something like that. Okay. So then that is the meaning of the random seed or fixed seed. So we remain this as a fixed seed, and then I start the calculation. Okay. So after a while, the result will show. Okay. So what is this? This is the to test our hypothesis. Okay. So I will go into, because for this case, I'm having a very simple model. So I'm having a very simple model of which I just test whether these 5 independent variables here are significantly or positively relates to intentions to use. Okay, so my result is a verbal. So I go to, because this is a direct hypothesis, so I just go to path coefficient. My result is a verbal here. Okay, so this is actually my beta. The original sample here is my beta. So this is my sample mean. This is my standard deviation. So I have my t statistic. I have my p value. Okay, if you look at this, right, then we are very happy because all the hypotheses here are significant. Okay, so all the hypotheses here are significant. So I'm going to copy this one into my Excel and then I do my reporting. Okay, so we usually don't report our sample mean and then we don't report our standard deviation. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to overwrite all this. Okay, so say if this is my first hypothesis, I'm going to call this H1. Okay, this one will be my H2. Okay, so this one will be my H3. So then that's how we can do our reporting. So that's why this software is very user friendly, very easy to use. Okay, H4, then this is my H5. Okay, so I try to standardize all this with 3 decimal point. Okay, so my decisions that I'm going to say here is, so this one is supported. So this is also supported. This is also supported. So then I can write my simple analysis. I can write my simple report already. Okay, so yeah, so then this is the structural model analysis. Oh yeah, sorry, I forgot to show you where I can get my VIF. So just now, part of it, we have to report our variance inflation factors, right? So you go back here, okay? So here you can also open the report. So I have run two analysis. One is bootstrapping and one is actually the PLS algorithm, right? So I can actually open here. Open report. Okay, so this is my PLS algorithm report. I open report. And sorry, this is rerunning the analysis as you get the same answer. Okay, so yeah. Okay, I go back here. I can calculate my PLS algorithm. Okay, so this is what I did just now. I can extract my result of my variance inflation factor here. Can you see? Okay, so I'm going to look at the outer model. Sorry, I'm going to look at the inner model, not the outer model, sorry, because for my this one, just now I mentioned about for structural model. Okay, so I assess the lateral collinearity. So in this case, this is the value. I'm going to copy into Excel and then report it. So how do I arrange it? So this is actually my VIF value. So for the endogenous variable, we certainly don't have that because that is the dependent variable. We are not measuring the variance inflated factor. Okay, so you can actually remove this. Okay, in this case, you can see that all the value is below the threshold of 5. Okay, so then that is acceptable. Okay, so sometimes how do we report here is that we have to arrange the table nicely. Okay, so this is the paper that I using the data that I show you. So we have the loading, we have the convex alpha. So this is the measurement model assessment. So this is our discriminant validity using the HTMT criterion. Okay, then this one is the structural model. I have my beta, I have my t statistic. So here I have my confidence interval bias corrected. So this is actually the result is extracted from just now when I run my analysis, right? So when I calculate the bootstrapping, I just now choose faster. So if I'm going to choose slower, that is the complete one. Okay, so then I will get the bias interval corrected. Okay, the bias interval corrected, the BIC here from here. Hello. Okay. Okay. Low system resource. Okay. I have too many things running at the same time. So apologize that I cannot show you. So then that is how we can get the in between value here. Okay. So and then another things I want to show you here is the PLS predict. Okay. So PLS predict, we come back here. You see, calculate. We go to PLS predict. CVBAT, okay, so this is the number of fold. We leave it at default. Okay, we start the calculation. Okay, so the result will generate here. So we look at this is the Q square, right? So for Q square, so for the PLS predict here, we only get the value for the endogenous variable. Okay, you see that again, all green, right? So in this case, I will only look at my RMSE and not my MAE. Why? So I'm going to show you the histogram. Okay, so you look at the histogram here, you see that this is more like symmetrical, right? So we see the histogram here. So this is more like a symmetrical histogram. Okay, so if you recall just now, extract from the paper, we say that if it's using the PLS predict. So if it is symmetrical, we're going to use RMSE. So if it's not symmetrical, we're going to use MAE. So for my case, I'm going to use the this one. Okay, we look at the overview. So I'm going to use the RMSE. So first of all, I copy this one into my Excel. So here I have to do a bit of a simple adjustment. Okay, so this is the value of my PLS SEM RMSE. So I'm not going to use this. So that's why I'm deleting this. Okay, I'm not going to use this two either. So I'm going to delete this. Okay, so now I have the Q square value. Okay, so Q square value, in order for it to be predictable, the Q square value have to be higher than 0. Okay, so now I have my RMSE for my linear model, and I also have my RMSE for my PLS SEM. So what I'm going to do here is, remember in the slide that we mentioned, okay, so the value has to be, okay, so if all my indicator here, if the value minority of them is PLS SEM less than LM, is low predictive power. So if majority of them, then it's medium predictive power. If it's all of them, it's high predictive power. Okay, I go back to my Excel. Okay, so this one I don't need, I delete. Okay, so I delete it. Okay, so here I'm going to have PLS minus LM, okay, RMSE. Okay, so yeah, actually the result is here already lah. So you can see green. So I have this minus this one. So when I drag all this here using the same formula, you see that all of the value here is negative. What does negative here means? Negative here means that my PLS SEM RMSE is smaller than my LM RMSE. So that means my model here actually possesses strong predictive relevance. Okay, so my model here actually predicted having a strong predictive relevance. So what is my decisions here is that based on this one, okay, I will have high predictive power because all my indicator of my endogenous variable here. So these are the indicator or the items of my endogenous variable. You see I1 to I3, I1 to I4 here, all the PLS SEM RMSE value is lower than my LM, the linear model or the wrong model, okay, is lower than here. So therefore, I will say this one possesses strong predictive power. Okay, yeah, so I'm actually done with the structural model analysis already. Okay, so that's it. So you can use this to actually report or you write your paper already. But of course, there are others analysis that we can done. But I think due to the time limit, I'm not able to show you all. Okay, so as I mentioned just now, I actually wanted to show you how to run the necessary conditions analysis. Okay, and under PLS predict here, currently the latest one here, we have the CV PAT, or rather we call the CVPAT, cross-validated predictive analysis test. So this is to supplement just now what we have done for this PLS predict. So this part here is consider our PLS predict analysis. Okay, so this is what we call the PLS predict analysis. Okay, so what I have managed to cover for today is that I have shown you how to run the measurement model using a reflective measurement approach, okay, where we have the factors loading, compact alpha, composite reliability, AVE, and then the discriminant validity. So this is the R square, that's mean the variance explained, the VIF value. So this is the word, this is the lateral collinearity. Okay, we have the F square, the effect size. Okay, for effect size, we don't report for the dependent variable, so this one remove. Okay, so this is consider the interpretation here. This is actually not significant in a way because it's too small. Okay, not significant. Okay, so then here you will say small effect, small effect, small effect. This is considered a medium effect. Okay, why we say a medium effect? Because just now, if we look at the F square, okay, it's larger than 0.15. Okay, when you achieve 0.15, it's considered medium effect. So this is the effect size. Yeah. So this is the effect size. So some of the paper, how they report it is that they will put the F square row together here, okay, together with the VIF value. Okay, so this is one paper. Yeah, so then this is PLS predict analysis for PLS. So this one I report everything. Okay, but you see that this paper actually I published in early 2023. The data was collected in 2020, in 2022. Okay, so then back then the software still have the Q square predict, but now they don't have. We can also run the importance performance metric. So the important performance metric, yeah, so this is the NCA analysis. So the performance in the IGMA importance performance metric here is going to tell you among all these variables that you have selected to measure, which one is performing well against this dependent variable or the endogenous variable, and then whether they are important or not important. So this one can help you to do your implication right up as well. Okay, so I think for today's sessions, for the demonstrations part, I come to the end. Actually, there's a lot more analysis that we can do with this software. But I think because of the time limit, I think I would end here. So when you have the time, if you downloaded this software, you can see that there are different sample projects that you can try out. Okay, so you can also run on covariance-based structural equations modeling. So that's why I say that it is important when people ask you, what is your statistical analysis technique? Then you have to answer the statistical analysis technique, not the software, because you will see that currently this software is capable to run so many analysis. Okay, yeah, I think that's about all for my sharing today. Yeah, I pass it back to Dr. Ifran.
Thank you, Doctor. Thank you, Doctor, for your kind presentations and gave us your valuable time. We appreciate your times to give to our professors and our participants. We really appreciate, and to be honest, we have learned a lot to smart PLS, the using of the softwares, even though, and we hope in future as well, our participants and a lecturer will install the smart PLS software. In a future, we will also give invitations. We will do a practicals on that software. If you had a times in the future, I know your schedule is so busy, but we look forward to you to once again, they will use the software practically. Thank you, doctor, for your kind participation with us.
Yeah,
Thank
I'm apologies if I'm not able to look at the chat messages here. So here is my email address. So assuming that you have any questions, right? So I will try to answer when you send me an email. Okay, I'm so sorry I'm not able to look at the messages here, or if you have a
Yeah.
further question. So yeah, sorry, just now the first one there's a typo error. So let me delete this. Okay, so yeah, so this is my email address. So assuming that you have any issue, okay, so this is my full name. So in my country, we will have our family names first. So my family name is Lau, and then my first name is Mei Peng. So you can actually search it out. So if you're interested in any of my paper that I have published, just let me know. I will be happy to share with you. So if you have any issue in using the software, okay, so you can also drop me a message, then I'll try to answer to you. So if there's anything that I can help. Okay, so once again, thanks, Dr. Ifran, for inviting me, and also Rohan Institute of Higher Education giving me this platform to share with you the little things that I know of for research. Okay, I hope that all the participants here have at least have some exposure with this software. So this is really the way forward, okay, is highly recommended. I didn't get anything out of this software, but based on my personal experience, so this is a very useful software. So if you have your data already, you can just play around with the software. So you can come up with a lot of analysis. Hopefully with this sharing here, all the participants here can write more paper, do more research, and have more publication. Okay, I think that's all from me. Thank you, Dr. Ifran, and thank you, Rohan Institute of Higher Education.
Thank you, doctor. Thank you, doctor, for your kind presentation and give your valuable time for us. We are really appreciate your kind efforts and your kind time. Thank you, and we hope in future we have also to have organized that sort of webinar for you, and we are also looking forward for your free times in the future. Thank you, doctor. Thank you. For a participant, we have e-certificates. Dear participants, if you would like to get e-certificates, you should complete the Google form. Then you will receive automatically e-certificate. Otherwise, if you didn't see the e-certificate in your inbox, may you look to see the spam as well. Maybe you will the email, the certificate will be in your spam file. Thank you, doctor. We have officially a speaker's certificate for you. We will arrange you, even though we will send on WhatsApp, on email as well officially. Thank you, doctor. Thank you for your.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And we will receive the presentations as well. If you provide it through email or WhatsApp, it's okay. And also we have a record all the sessions, and we will upload to YouTube. If some participant need this event, we do events on YouTube. We will share the link as well with them. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Dear participants, if you have any questions about this webinar, you can do it, and we will share to doctor. That's why she had a little or a limited time as before he joined our webinar. She explained everything with us. If you have any questions, we will communicate to them. Otherwise, she left her email as well in the chat. You can directly also contact with her. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Irfan. Thank you for organizing this amazing training. Really, she explained in detail and this structural model, and I'm sure that we will know to repeat it and do it, and we will watch if we need and ask again. Thank you. Thank you so much. Have a blessed day.
Thank you, doctor. Thank you, doctor, for your kind feedbacks. Thank you.
اعلان کوکاکولا در رمضان.
تاسو سره ګوګل فارم لینک شریک شوی دی او آنلاین سرټیفیکیټ د ګوګل فارم د لینک د لارې تاسو اخیستی شئ. اکثره سټیم تاسو ګوګل فارم کمپلیټ کړئ سمدستي تاسو ایمیل ته آنلاین ای سرټیفیکیټ راځي تاسو په نوم باندې. بعضې ایمیل ته رانغی انباکس هم وکتلو نو میبي هغه ستاسو سپم فایل کې پروت دي، خپل سپم فایل هم وګورئ تاسو. نو د روخان د لوړو زده کړو یونیورسټي څخه به آنلاین سرټیفیکیټ تاسو ترلاسه کوئ دغه ګوګل فارم د لارې. نور زموږ دغه ویبنار اخر ته رسېدلی، که څه پوښتنه یا وړاندیزونه څه شی لرئ نو تاسو یې له موږ سره شریکولی شئ. مهرباني.